Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Lauren, and today I am going to be doing the ratings and review tag. I was very kindly tagged by my friend V over at the Sassy Library Fox. I am very grateful to V for tagging me in this. Since I started my channel, which has been over 2 years ago, I think at this point, I've been wanting to do a video that sort of explains how and why I rate books the way that I do, because I'm always curious how other people do that. This tag, I hadn't heard of it before, but I think it sounds like a fantastic tag. This is going to be pretty off the cuff. I haven't prepared for this at all. I feel like for this type of tag that is very just kind of a discussion, it's better to get my sort of honest reactions to all of these questions so I don't overthink them. If this is not the most eloquent, not the most smooth video, I do apologize, but these are just sort of my raw thoughts and reactions to these questions. So the first prompt on this tag is to tag other people. Just as I have not prepared to answer any of these questions, I have not prepared to tag anyone in particular, but I promise that once I release this video, I will have thought of people. Their names will be down in the video description box below, and I can guarantee that whoever I tag, it will be channels and people that I really love and support that I hope you will as well. So if I'm tagging you, I really look forward to hearing your answers. And if you are just someone watching this video for fun, I hope that you will go and check their channels out as well.
How do you know when you've just finished a good book? Is it a thinking or feeling response?
It can be either one or both. Generally speaking, a book that I come away from feeling like it was a really good book is more one than the other. I will think it was a good book, or I will feel like it was a good book. But if I come away from a book feeling like it was a great book, it will be both. I will feel like I enjoyed it, but I will also think very logically about what made it great and be able to articulate that. So it's not one or the other. It's more just kind of a spectrum, a combination of the two.
When you begin to form your review or rating, what is the first question you ask yourself?
Man, that is a tough one. Probably, I would say one of the first things I would ask myself after I finish a book is, am I going to remember this? Like, was this a memorable experience? That's probably the first thing. Because if the answer to that question for me is, I'm going to forget this within a month, it doesn't matter how great the book was, it's never going to get a 5-star from me, because a truly great book to me is not forgettable.
Do you give star ratings? Why or why not? If yes, explain your rating system. What does a good book get in your rating system? Is your rating system consistent? In other words, are all of your 5-star books better than all of your 4-star books?
There's a lot in there, so let's unpack that a little bit. So if yes, explain your star rating system. As I was describing a moment ago, a 5-star book for me is going to be both a feeling and a thinking response. It's going to be memorable. It's going to have meaning to me. And most likely, in my opinion, a book with a 5-star has cultural significance. Like, whenever I finish that book, I will definitely feel like other people need to read it, that they will gain something valuable from it. It can have themes in it that I find particularly relatable, particularly touching or poignant. But also at the same time, it can't be terribly written. Writing quality is important to me. It doesn't have to be collegiate and literary or anything like that. I prefer the writing to be of a good quality and a good standard and well thought out. One down from that, a 4-star, would be a book that is probably close to that, but is missing one or two of that elements. Maybe the writing isn't as great. Maybe the themes aren't as important to me or as touching to me. Or maybe the book I just feel like is not as enduring for whatever reason. A book that I give 3 stars just is missing more of those things. Generally, I will give a book 3 stars if it was a good time. I read mainly for escapism, so if it does its job and kind of like, you know, takes me away to another place for a little while, but it doesn't have a ton of significance to me, then maybe that's a 3-star book. I would say a 3-star book can still be a pretty meh, or like a pretty neutral territory. Like, I don't think it's bad, I don't think it's good. But 2-star, I'm starting to have some active negative feelings about the book. And then a 1-star book, which I've given so few 1 stars, that would signify actual hatred. And honestly, there are so few books that I hate. It has to be pretty detestable to get a 1-star. So that's kind of the spectrum of my rating system.
Do you believe every good book has its perfect reader? Does this contradict the idea that a book can be bad?
I would say yes. I do believe that every book has its perfect reader. However, I do think a book can be bad, but I think that that has to do more with the content being bad. Can a terribly harmful book with like very upsetting content have a perfect reader for that book? Sure. But does that make it any less bad in my eyes? No. I mean, there are plenty of very harmful books out there that I would call bad that have their perfect readers. So yeah, that's just how I feel about it though.
What book that you hated have you recommended?
I would never recommend a book that I hate. There have been books that I haven't liked for whatever reason, and I have recommended books that didn't work for me or that I didn't particularly like, but actually hating a book and recommending it, like that would never happen. Much like my friend V who tagged me in this, much like she said, I couldn't in good conscience recommend a book that I felt actual hatred for.
What makes a book good, bad, or great by your evaluation?
The words good, bad, and great are kind of clumsy words, and this gets into some like sort of philosophical territory, I think. But if I don't want to overcomplicate this, just simply a good or bad or a great book, I would say that a good book to me is just a book that does its job. Like I was saying earlier, the main job a book has for me is to like take me to another place, kind of help me escape for a little while, get my mind off of things. If I'm just kind of in another place, I would say that makes a good book. For me, a book that is a bad book would be a book that is kind of the opposite of that, a book that I can't really get into, that I don't get that sort of escapist feeling from it, a book that I'm way too aware of like the author and what they're doing and how they're writing, a book that has tropes that I don't really like in it, having a plot that is kind of meandering and I don't really know where it's going. So those are some things that might cause me to feel like a book is bad. As far as a book being great, like I said earlier, it has to make me feel like I have had a life or mind-changing experience, a book that I feel like would benefit other people to read, a book that I feel like was written well and thoughtfully and had a point to it, just a book that is kind of unforgettable, a book that will always sort of be with me in some small way.
When evaluating the quality of a book, do you have specific criteria or aspects of the book, such as character development, that you consider? Does this change if you are writing an in-depth review versus just thinking about the book for enjoyment?
I don't really write reviews, that is probably going to be changing coming up pretty soon, which I will talk to you guys about that in a later video. But this question overall, I think these are maybe a little bit repetitive, so I'm going to try to answer this with something new. Character development is not a number one priority to me. I feel like plot for me is a little bit higher importance. Although to be fair, a book with a great plot but just styrofoam characters may not be as fulfilling. And if the characters are just sort of completely hollow vessels, then that's not good. But they don't have to be completely and utterly fleshed out for me to enjoy the book. But that, I guess, speaks to another criteria, which is the plot, a very engaging and unique plot. If it was engaging, if it had moved at a nice clip, or if it was kind of a little slow, a little boring. I like a fair amount of action in my books. If this book is just sort of a repeat of things that I have read before, if it isn't doing something fresh, I'm looking for a book that is really kind of taking me somewhere, maybe on an adventure, or really kind of keeping me guessing, really kind of moving along at a good speed. That is like the gold standard for me for a good book.
Do you consider star ratings or average ratings when choosing books to read or add to your TBR?
Yes, I would say so, although this has carried less and less weight for me over the years, because what I have found is that some of my favorite books have very low average ratings. Just because the average person doesn't love the book, for my taste, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But to say that if I saw, a book with an average rating of like 2.5 stars, would I still pick it up? Probably not. So I would say yes, but it's not my standards are pretty low, I guess. I would say if a book has at least over a 3-star rating, I would give it a chance if it sounded like, if it's the synopsis sounded intriguing to me and sounded like something I might like, I would give it a chance.
Who on BookTube gives interesting and reliable reviews of books that you know you can use to decide if a book is for you or not? What makes their reviews so good?
Everyone that I follow on YouTube, I get value out of their reviews. Otherwise, I wouldn't be following them. I wouldn't be watching their videos. However, if I had to pick one that I think does pretty much the best job of anyone I watch, someone who I really aspire to be able to review books as well as they do, is Kayla at Books and Lala. There's a reason that she has a massive following. She is a fantastic reviewer, and the main thing that I think that makes her reviews so good is that she is so honest and unbiased. Even if she doesn't like a book, she's very good at identifying the kind of reader that might like a book and is willing to give those recommendations to get those books into the right hands. And I really, really like that about her reviews. I know that whenever I watch her reviews, the information that I'm going to gain is going to be extremely valuable, very well thought out. In a lot of ways, we have very similar tastes, particularly in kind of, odd books that most people maybe don't get. We share a taste in that. So those reviews in particular, I know I'm going to get very good review over.
Does that booktuber use different language than you to evaluate and review the overall quality of a book?
Probably not a huge difference. I mean, there is definitely some difference. I feel like she is much more thorough than me at times. Sometimes I worry too much about being too long-winded and just kind of going on and getting boring and all that sort of stuff, which is, I feel like, a legitimate concern when you're a smaller channel. Whenever you are a huge 100K plus subscriber channel, there is more flexibility to just speak and speak and speak like people want to hear what you have to say. Whenever you're a smaller channel, you have to make an impact much more quickly. So I think that that's maybe the main difference, is like I do it more quickly and get to the point. And I would like to elaborate more, but like I'm just some random person who wants to hear like every last thought out of my head. So I would say that's the main difference. But otherwise, I do truly kind of try to model my reviewing style to hers. I can only hope and wish that I do half as good of a job as that. All right, so I think that is going to be it. That is the entire tag, the ratings and review tag. That was really actually a lot of fun to go through all those questions. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too long-winded. I would love to know any of your answers or thoughts down in the comments below, so please talk to me down there. I'm always curious to know how other people think about books, how they rate and review them, so please talk to me down below. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that you will like it and possibly subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.